Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program.
Hello and welcome to another dose of Subscription Prescription. I am your host, Matthew Holman, and I'm very excited for this week's dose because I am joined by another subscription retention expert in the space, Thomas Lalas from The Art of Ecom. Thomas, thanks for joining the show.
Hello, it's wonderful to be here. I was looking forward to this discussion for so long.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, Thomas, you have a great background. You've worked with quite a number of ecom darlings in our space, like Everyday Dose, Livingood Daily, Obvi. So you've seen a lot of different brands, how they're operating retention and subscriptions. I'd love for our listeners and viewers to learn just a little bit more about yourself, your background, your experience, how you got into subscription retention.
Yeah. So I started 15 years ago in the space of marketing. But before that, I was a military policeman. I was working for NATO at the headquarters in Europe. And that was quite interesting. That was my first time being in touch with Americans in international sports. And then I moved to London at the age of 25 to focus on my music. But I ended up becoming a professor at 3 universities teaching music business. So what I was doing in business for myself as a musician, there was a lot of interest online, and sort of the things that I did sort of became viral. So I started getting invited to lectures, and then I became a permanent member at 3 universities. And this is when I started marketing, with my music, with business. And then I created a startup around AI with my best students. It was AI in education before AI was a thing. It was so difficult to convince VCs and people with money to park their money on AI. Although I went to South by Southwest in Austin, we were featured as a startup. There was a lot of hype, but it died after 3 years. And that was mainly because we were profitable. We were acquiring customers, but we wouldn't retain them because I didn't know what retention was back then. So when I failed with a start and I was in debt, I realized that I had 8 years of experience at that point where I could lend this experience to other businesses. And that's how I entered retention marketing, subscriptions, DTC. That's when I started understanding, how this world works. So it's been 7 years now, and I kind of climbed up the ranks, with my experience from being an operator to now being a marketer and a gun for hire. So it's been amazing working with 8 and 9 figure brands, so many different problems to solve. And I've seen the landscape evolve in the last 15 years. It's been amazing, exciting times, and I'm so happy to have a discussion with you.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you mentioned you started out, being military police, and now you're a gun for hire. So maybe it's not too far apart from
yes,
the past. But
unintended, but that was good.
Yeah. It was a great way. So yeah, you talked about the shifting landscape. I'd love to hear how you're seeing things evolve now. Like, what's some of the trends you're seeing in the subscription space right now that are both good and bad for brands?
Yeah, there is one thing that, it really stood out to me with the president of Shopify mentioning that wherever commerce is taking place, Shopify will be there. So we have now AI, we have all these different places where people are buying stuff online. It's not just Shopify on the platform, DTC, etc. So I'm really curious to see where things are going to go and how people will buy in the future. I'm not going to pretend that I know how things will go. We see where things are going, and we try to adapt the way that people want to do business, where they want to buy stuff. Who would predict that buy now, pay later would be a behemoth, people would finance tacos, right? So there are a lot of unexpected things happening, including AI. I don't even know where our children both have babies. We don't know where our children will grow up, how they will buy in the future. So I will not pretend I'm an expert. But on this one, I'm really excited to see Shopify, for example, the leading platform, being everywhere where e-com is taking place, whether it's a chatbot, or whatever this might be. Now, in terms of subscriptions, things are a bit more ominous. So I'm excited about the first part. The subscription part, it's a bit more ominous because right now, and I wrote a comment about this in one of the posts lately, subscription is pretty much siloed. We have e-com that supports subscription, so you can maximize LTV on your own website. But there are platforms, huge platforms like Amazon, TikTok Shop, and even retail. They don't communicate with subscription. They don't give away their data. They don't, there's no integration. It's all silos, and they want to do their own thing. So that makes subscription and maximizing LTV really difficult. The future where I want to see is all these platforms basically communicating. So when somebody subscribes, we know who they are, we know how to maximize value. There will be a proper omni-channel experience and communication, and that will require some kind of a universal CRM tool, somewhere where we know who this person is, how many times they've seen an ad in this platform and that platform combined. Because right now you might set the threshold that, hey, I want them to see maximum 20 ads in Facebook and then I give up on them. But what if they see 20 other ads in Google and 20 other ads in TikTok Shop? We don't know who these people are. So they might be actually seeing hundreds of ads and we don't even know who they are because there's no universal identification system.
It's a really interesting point, right? Yeah. And like, there are certainly attribution tools that are trying to unify that. Like, you mentioned TikTok Shop, and it's like no commerce is trying to do post-purchase. No commerce is not doing post-purchase surveys with TikTok and Shopify. And I think that when you talk about omni-channel and multi-channel attribution, that is often something that is reserved for like enterprise brands that have the tools, the resources, the data to pull some of that. But the first part you said, like, I think that strikes me a lot when I get asked about subscriptions, and I think of, yes, there might be like people getting subscription fatigue. There might be people getting tired of having too many subscriptions, but I'm honestly just seeing the beginning of subscriptions in many ways because of how we subscribe to so many different things, right? Like whether you have your DoorDash, whether you have your Amazon, whether you have your Instacart, like there's so many different methods and channels to buy things through that I think what's so exciting about AI as well is like, we always talk about AI from brand side, like how do you service customers better? But also we're going to start to soon see the rise of our own AI agents that can manage those subscriptions across multi-channels for ourselves as a consumer. And I think that any brand that's, I think, investing in subscriptions the right way, like relationships and engagement, is going to win in those areas. It's going to be a lot less about, like, it's just funny to me when you mentioned the military police thing, I thought of like, because I think you and I are on the same page here. We don't want subscriptions to feel like we're locked in jail, right? Like you should be able to come and go when it comes to subscriptions. And so I think that technology is doing more and more to enable that I can control more and more from my phone and from a text, from, a push notification. And I think that's a good thing for consumers, and it's scary for brands, right? Like I'm sure you've seen that. It's scary for brands initially, but the brands that believe in engagement and believe in their product are going to win there.
Yeah, too many comments here. So let me get started because I feel I'm quite furious about this. Yes, it's a good thing that the consumer is in control, and that's the way it should be. I really like regulations catching up to this. One-click cancellation. As easy it is for you to buy, it should be as easy to cancel. And I love this. America's always pioneering these things, and that everybody else follows suit. So number one, yeah, it should be as easy. And brands that do have something incredible to offer and a superior experience, they will not be afraid of this. But
right.
I've worked with and I've seen brands where they try even to hide with dark patterns and creative ways, try to hide that it's a subscription. And when I audit a lot of brands, I can spot the accidental renewal. I can spot when the retention curve is where people know they're on a subscription and they decide to stay on, or when there is a spike on month 2 because they didn't realize they're on a subscription, but then everything else is, you cannot just
that spike shape after the churn date, after the churn or after the process date, you see the spike.
Shape. Yeah, it is a particular shape. So every time that I see a brand like this, I kind of feel like I don't want to work with them. I can provide a lot of value for so many brands, but I feel like brands that have a principle or the belief that they should hide the subscription, it's not the type of mentality I want to spend time on. So yeah, overall, I feel pretty a little curious about this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm curious. Like sometimes for me, I have to feel like I have to take a step back from the right customer experience and try to find. I think that there's a lot of data that supports doing it the right way. Like, what have you seen in that space where brands are actually more engaged? They're more upfront. Like, how do you see that play out from a technical or even from like an LTV analysis? Because I think a lot of brands don't want to do it because they see when they turn on the notification or they make the button easy to find, they see churn go up initially. right? That right around that charge date, and then they get scared and it's a loss of revenue instead of them maybe looking at the whole picture. So I'm curious on your thoughts on that.
It's kind of so wrong to see it this way, because every time you compare a OTP cohort versus a subscription cohort, the LTV for the subscription cohort is like 3 to 4 times higher.
Right.
What are you afraid of? Your ego is getting hurt because you see people churning before they will not even buy. So what are you afraid of? So for me, it's irrational. It's the human emotion coming in and just not seeing the obvious that you need a subscription. If your product is a good fit for a subscription, you should only have a subscription. So I don't even buy I hear the arguments of having OTP available as well as subscription and trying to maximize subscription take. For me, if it was up to me, and usually this is what happens, it's never OTP. You can buy OTP, but it's not right there on the PDP. You will subscribe if it makes sense, because, and I'll explain why.
Yeah.
Because when the brand knows that this specific product, let's say, I'm going to use a very theoretical example, let's say it's a product about helping your hair get thicker, not for us. We're not the target.
Yeah, not for you.
They help you get, thicker, luscious hair. And you know that this product needs more or less 4 months of weekly, like 3 to 4 times applied per week for this to work. Your goal and the best interest for your customer is to help them spend all of the 4 months applying the product and using it and getting educated on what they should be expecting and not giving up. So what makes sense is subscription. It is a disservice for the customer not to subscribe, because they will buy it once, they will feel disappointed that they didn't get the results right away, and now nobody helped. Nobody, you spent $1 to get a customer, and then you got 80 cents back. So now you bought a liability. The customer felt disappointed, so they might not buy another product again. So who wins? Nobody. So the subscription makes a lot of sense for most CPG products, because you need the product again and again to get the end result. So for me, that's why it should always be subscription. And then you see what's the timeline for the end result, and then you break it down from that. I'm going to take a point.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. And we had that interaction, I think, on Brian Stark's post on LinkedIn earlier this week talking about that. And it's certainly interesting because he brought up the point of seeing that people that do one time that convert to subscriptions can have a higher LTV than people that come initially subscriptions. I haven't necessarily seen that myself, but it might be just I haven't looked for that yet. I will say that for me, I feel like sometimes working with brands, there's so many things to chase, right? There's so many things you're working on, from ads to creative, to source of products, your email, your social, there's millions of things, right? And even when you get bigger, that just means you might have more resources. You just have now an order of magnitude more things to do. And the argument is you could only really focus on so many things at once. Why focus on optimizing for conversions for one-time purchases when you could optimize for conversions for subscriptions that have proven higher LTV? And yes, they might have a higher CAC. They might have a lower conversion rate potentially. Like, it's not necessarily the case across the board. It's like often a better use of resources to gear your business towards acquiring people that are going to be worth more, right? But it's an interesting question about whether you take off the OTP option at all or not. I know brands that have done it both ways, like they've gone sub only and then added the OTP, or they took off the OTP to go sub only. And so I've seen it kind of work in a few different ways across the space. But it sounds like you're saying, like, forget the OTP button, go after subscriptions in its entirety.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend that it's 100%
Sure
the right way. Sometimes there might be valid reasons for OTP to be there. Personally, I've never seen one. I've never seen a really good reason for OTP to be there. So always go with subscription first. And again, I haven't seen, just like you, I haven't seen higher LTV of people going from OTP to subscription. But also personally, this might be just me, I have not been able to crack with my brands going from OTP to subscription. I've cracked going to subscription first and then maximizing LTV. I haven't cracked, let's say, coming from TikTok shop and then converted them into subscription, or somebody buying from the website OTP and then having, just like they've just purchased and now trying to convince them to purchase again in 30 days. We don't even have enough time to educate them. The driver know that I can educate them, help them realize and shift their belief towards the product and the end result, so much so that they will basically go from, let me give this a try, to, I can't live without this. Why would I cancel? I think this is the game, and this one I'm trying to play.
No, I agree. Like, I think like when you model a lot of the numbers, it often just doesn't make sense to like push really hard for OTP to try to convert to subscriptions. Like, it's hard enough to convince somebody to come back to purchase a second time, let alone to come back and subscribe. So the numbers like often don't support that. Like you should do it. I'm not saying you don't do it because it's something you can automate right through flows, but it is difficult to like get really efficient at that. Whereas I've seen brands become incredibly efficient, especially ones that we've worked with, as you've worked with, like you can get incredibly efficient at acquiring subscribers initially. So you don't necessarily need to worry as much about selling to them after that. Okay. So I'm curious, like, so you talked about a little bit about that. Like, what are some other things you're seeing, either positive or negative in the space well, let's start with positive. What are some tactics you're seeing that are effective for converting people to subscriptions and also getting people to stay on a subscription?
Yeah, I want to say something positive that has nothing to do with acquisition, but it's a hot topic. I know I've read quite a few posts lately about this. It's the billing reminder, the number one reason for churn. The way that personally I approach this is I always add a second month free gift. Whether it's a digital gift or something that will complement the original purchase, there's always something that the brand can offer by month two, ideally for many months to follow. But if you do this, you can position the billing reminder as, hey, your next freebie is coming in 6 days, in 5 days. Not like, hey, you're going to get charged again. So the conversation shifts to something positive. So the email itself becomes, hey, your next freebie is getting unlocked in 6 days, right? And then I've seen brands, for no apparent reason, having only one option available as a call to action in a billing reminder, which is manage your subscription, cancel the subscription, or delay the subscription. Right. And guess what? That's what people are going to do. Mm-hmm. But what I do is I give them different options. Get your next order now. If it's a product that can be consumed multiple times, so you might run out of it, get another thing like an upsell or a cross-sell with Zamo, just one click and you're done. Referrals, questions, answered, and then manage your subscription. Obviously, you don't hide it. You just make it an option that people can choose from. And personally, I've managed for my brands to see that the cancellation for billing reminder is not unusual, when compared to everything else. There's no one normally.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
I think it's like the biggest point of impact I think you have to the point of purchase, right? Like, yes, like onboarding flows I think are really important. Like that's what helps build like the relationship and education, great product experience. But like the billing reminder is like immediate, right? Like it's one of the easiest things of like, I think when we talk about this idea of like what you're hiding or not on the brand side, when I've audited brands that have tried the billing reminder and don't like it because it causes churn, and then you look at the billing reminder, it's like, well, no wonder you're inviting people to cancel. We were working with a brand recently where they have this kind of like space theme. And so it's like this beautiful lift off graphics and stuff. And like, you're on your way and your journey and stuff. And then it's like, yeah, your order's coming as part of that process. And you're like, wow, yeah, this email's kind of like exciting, right? It's building hype. And yes, there's a managed subscription button down there, but there's also now an offer, right? To like upgrade anyway. So yeah, I think that's totally right. What are some other things you're seeing like through either education onboarding? Like, are there any other tactics you're using that you like, that you feel like are maybe either a little underrepresented or anything like that?
Absolutely. So the way that I approach the first week after the purchase, I consider it to be an extension of the product itself. This is what brands do wrong, in my opinion. They spend so much time acquiring the customer. They're so creative. Their ads are amazing. The hooks, everything. It's down to science. But then they buy, and then crickets, There's nothing that, even if something is there, that would be better at retention than just no communication. So number one, this is very basic. I'm not going to analyze it. It's self-explanatory. But I always consider the first week as an extension of the product. It needs to have, just like the consistency between the ads to the PDP or landing page to the purchase experience, post-purchase, when people feel the most skeptical and except for the billing reminder, that's the period where most people cancel a subscription. It's like they feel insecure. They feel that this might be a scam. This might not be effective, that they gambled their money, even if it's $30, they're skeptical. Now, most brands don't do anything to alleviate this pain that they feel, that they've parted their money and they're subscribed now to a brand they've never heard of before and they put a bet on. So I always try to alleviate the pain, and there are many questions they have in their mind, but I always try to provide a lot of free value addition to the product. So even positioning like a free community or an SMS club or a digital freebie or a physical freebie or what they should be expecting as freebies when the order comes, this is all additional value. The perceived value is very important because once they start trying a product, they will think about the benefits they're getting from the product. But for now, till they receive the product, it's all about trust. It's all about them being skeptical and you trying to tackle this problem, So always having emails from the founder or even a video. I mean, one of my favorite ways I've done this is having one of the founders record a video as if he was talking to a friend, like, hey, here's how you use the product, right? And then the video is just obviously self-made without great production. But then the founder decided that actually more people need to know about this. So we put in an email with a screenshot of, a funny face, and then people click. Like this is the closest I've got to 1/3 of every person opening the email clicking, the click rate is, we're talking about like 20%, like amazing.
That's awesome.
So so overall alleviating their concerns, that's part number one. But then they receive, so this is the first, let's say 7 days, more or less would be 4 to 5 business days for most brands to fulfill the order. Now, after this comes a different problem. And this is phase number 2, which for me is the next 2 weeks. It's all about the benefits of the product and how fast they will get them. Most products cannot deliver a tangible benefit that is observable beyond, without any issue within the first 2 weeks. They might need at least a second rebilling till they start seeing the first results. There are some supplements or like mushroom coffee that I work with, Rise and Everyday Dose, that can deliver results much faster. There are other mechanisms like the tongue strips, or gummies, some gummies that deliver results faster. This is great. If they do that, this is great. Because I've seen. Sorry, so many things. Oh yeah.
No, I'm going to say what I'm let you talking about this. No, I love your talking about it because I think that's the hardest part. It's like, as we look at brands, it's like when you can show an immediate win, retention is so much easier.
That would be the hero product. Yeah. That can be the hero product, like what attracts people, gets them the result, and then you can cross-sell and upsell. But what I've seen with different brands, I discovered this accidentally and I started replicating it across different brands, and I kept seeing the same thing. When people say that within the first 7 or 14 days of using the product, they feel some kind of a visible benefit. I usually say, have you noticed a positive impact on your well-being? So it is compliant copy, but it's also vague enough for people to not report the exact thing the product was trying to solve. Maybe just feeling better, mood is better, although the product is about focus, or it's about sleep, but now they feel better overall because sleep has slightly improved, but now they have better mood throughout the day.
Right.
So it's always a question about impact on well-being. And the answer is always, yes, I've seen this, I feel amazing, or no, I still need more time to evaluate. Right. So it's not really a hard no.
Right. And it's suggestive too. Like that's the other thing is I think that it's like, it's not so much like we're manipulating people doing that, but it's also like suggestive. So like if you're on the fence or you're not sure, you're going to go like, a lot of people are going to think, oh yeah, you're right. I have felt a little bit and maybe they have or they haven't. But then there's always the follow-up of, even if you haven't felt this yet, this is what people feel on average. There's still more time. And then here's what's happening with some of your other milestones. You can follow that up as well.
Everybody's different. Yes, correct.
Right.
So what I've seen is that after 5 months, people that have selected that, yes, I felt early benefits in the first couple of weeks of using the product, these people have sometimes even double their retention of their results. So imagine like by month 5, a brand might have 40% retention in Shopify, but then you will see this cohort that is, obviously, not everybody will open the email, will click, etc., and will say that they felt early benefits. But this cohort, no matter how small, if everybody else has 40% retention, will have 80% retention. actually. I'm talking about
Don't you
vastly
don't you think
higher
that
potential.
don't you think that unlocks like a question though? Is it like, because some people might think, oh, it's self-selection bias, right? Like people that are feeling an effect vote yes, and people that feel effect might be retained better just because they feel it better. But I would argue that there is something to be said for an engagement, like when you actually start having your consumers respond to you and engage with you, that they're more likely to give you the benefit of the doubt, to pay more attention to your communications, to your education, other things. And that, so it's like, which is it, or maybe it's a little bit of both, right? Like, is it the fact that they feel the product so they stay longer, or is it also that they're engaging with you so they stay longer?
Yeah, a great question. I mean, these are the kind of questions that I love answering. You know, it's talking about numbers and experiments. So I've run a lot of experiments, and I have an answer to this. So the people that do engage, but they haven't felt the benefits earlier, they have superior retention compared to people that haven't engaged, but not as high as, you know, the people that felt the early benefits and engaged. So yes, engagement does have a significant impact on retention, because this way they get educated, they get closer to the brand, they believe in the brand a bit more, you know. And usually these people will have an opportunity to join a Facebook group, you know, where other people are there as well, or see more testimonials. So the perceived value and the belief about the brand and the product changes. So this does have an impact, right? So every time I set up a post-purchase experience, I will always have a lot more emails up front in the first 2 weeks to make sure I get this engagement that is necessary for retention. And then based on that, I will always compare how did people perform, you know, people that engaged versus people that didn't open the emails or didn't engage. There's always a lift in retention. But usually what I see is people that click at least 3 times or more, they have a higher retention that is worth focusing on, right? So my goal has been kind of like, I have multiple goals. One goal is 3 clicks, get them to click at least 3 times in the first 2 weeks, you know. After that, it's obviously the engagement window drops as you go closer to day 30. So most people would not open another email. And then I always have month 4 as the goal to get people past. You know, the month 4 is like the churn point, what I call the churn point, after which churn slows down significantly to the point of some brands even have a flat churn, right? So my goal is to get somebody to purchase for the first time. And then ideally, obviously, if they purchase month 2, 3, and 4, you know, monthly, that's great. But most people will have an opportunity to churn. So that's why for the right people with high engagement and basically in the bucket of, hey, they are potential loyalists or super fans, I pitch them to buy prepaid or like a bundle of 3 of the product, 3 months of the product, so I can push them past month 4. So I have these 2 core metrics: get them to engage at least 3 clicks and get them past month 4. So it's always a question of how fast I can achieve this, but they're very measurable and they're vastly true for most of the brands that I've worked with, to the point that it's become a rule for me.
I'm curious, are you tracking a lot of that in Klaviyo? Like, how are you unifying like click data with LTV, or is it depending on the system you're using for that?
Yeah, there's no perfect system. I'm using usually Shopify as the source of truth for spending LTV retention. I use Shopify. I do use Klaviyo to track LTV and projected LTV. So we'll get the people that I need to analyze in Klaviyo, and then I will see what their projected LTV is. So this way, this is another metric where I can suggest them different offers based on how much they're supposed to spend. But I also use Northbeam and Lifetimely. So these are the other 2 platforms that I use. Northbeam is mostly for marketing. Lifetimely is my tool of choice for retention and for understanding the P&L basically of the brand. So it's a combination of these tools, and I've built my own tools as well, my own spreadsheets. I love my numbers. Yeah, you know, Data's my love language kind of person. So yeah, there's no single platform that will give me all of my answers. But if I know the questions, I can find the answers.
No, that's great. Okay, Thomas, last question as we wrap up. Just if there's anything else that you're seeing that brands should be doing or should stop doing in this space when it comes to subscriptions?
I mean, I'm sad that this is the end of the podcast. I'm enjoying it so much. I would say education past. So once the customer has received the order, not as a time trigger on placed order, but when the order has been delivered, that's the trigger. Very important. So we know the exact timing. Education for the first 4 to 5 days. I usually create what I call bite-sized premium masterclasses. So it's a masterclass that lasts like on average 2 minutes. It's bite-sized, the way people want to consume information. It's visual, it's interactive, it's fun. People don't feel that they're being, patronized or mansplained or, even hard taught. It's entertainment, fun, and teaching. But people that complete the masterclasses, they feel they've accomplished something. They feel like they got a quick win before even seeing results of the product. So quick wins are very important. And I've seen, again, correlation with superior retention of people that complete one or more masterclasses. And then at the end of the masterclass, you pitch them an upsell if it makes sense. I've seen up to 33% take rate of somebody that completes a masterclass and then takes the upsell. And then at the end, you have a graduation day. It's like, it's hard.
That's fun.
You can give them some digital freebies. So for me, this is very important. And the number one thing that I tackle in these things, and feel free to copy this, it's cadence. Cadence of using the product. Consistency brings results, etc. You give them the timeline. You tell them what to expect. You tell them that they accelerate the results or get the results with cadence. You nail this message again and again with every single masterclass, because without the adoption of the product, the person will have no reason to actually stay subscribed. I purchased products that never educated me. I had so many questions, and then I still have a couple of boxes. I even paid $200 for one of them, and I haven't used it because I feel scared now. I don't know where to look, what to do. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to do the thing that I did before. Right. They've lost me. I keep delay the next order, but I'm not canceled. I'm an active subscriber, but that was a missed opportunity, and now I feel scared to even go back to it by myself.
No, that's a great point.
So education is very important, and product adoption. That's
I love that.
Big.
I love that. All right. Well, Thomas, thank you for coming on the show. For anybody interested in connecting and learning more about his work through the art of e-com, you can connect with Thomas on LinkedIn. I will have a link to his profile in the show notes for here. Thomas, thanks again for coming on the show.
It was amazing, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's it. Stay tuned for another week of Subscription Prescription, your dose for everything subscriptions related.
That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.